What is up, all you beautiful people out there? Welcome to the third installment of the VA Loan Virtual Lunch and Learn. We're going to give people another 2 or 3 minutes to jump on. There's still a couple coming, it looks like, and we'll kick this thing off. So, really looking forward to making these calls recurring and consistent. And even if nobody shows up for the call, we'll still record them. We'll put them out there on YouTube, and we'll get this really, really awesome information out there. So I'm going to go ahead and give it probably 20 more seconds, and we'll get started. Go ahead and share my screen. All right, so let's go ahead and start. Maybe. Can't get Zoom to, sorry, I can't get PowerPoint to agree with me today. All right, so again, guys, this is the VA Loan Virtual Lunch and Learn call. Purpose of this call is education only. I am not a licensed mortgage professional. So if you do have any questions regarding financial things when it comes to a mortgage and your personal mortgage needs, please reach out to a licensed mortgage professional, preferably one that specializes in VA loans. This is also not a call or a request for soliciting business. And if I do have real estate professionals and veterans both on the call, and I see in the chat somebody reaching out to solicit business, that professional will be asked to leave. And if they come back and do it again, they will be banned from the call. Again, we don't solicit business on things like this. We're just here to spread education about this awesome loan product. And lastly, when it's all said and done, please refer back to the VA loan handbook, which there's a QR code down there with my little dinosaur guy in the middle. And there is the VA loan handbook's website. And the thing about the VA loan is that the handbook is in black and white, but a lot of where we operate and a lot of where we actually implement the VA loan, it operates in the gray area. So always refer back to it for guidance, but then also reach out to somebody who's knowledgeable and has been there before. So let's get started. So I always have to say this because this is the reason for these calls. The purpose of the VA loan, not officially, is to give every man, woman, and child, every man, I mean, some are children, is to give every man and woman that serves this country the lowest barrier to entry possible to owning a piece of it. And you know why that's important is because we put our lives on the line, and veterans put their lives on the line, and it's nice that they can come back and have a very easy loan process to own a part of the land that they defended. But unfortunately, only between about 13 and 33%, and let's just say 33 of the veteran community actually uses their VA loan. And this is the interesting part because 33% is a very low number. It's terrible, and we're gonna move that needle. But of the 67% that don't use it, half of them don't even know it exists. And I put that blame on the military, the PCS, oh no, sorry, the EAS process and all that stuff. Now, the next little bullet point of the half that do know about it but never intend to use it, they do that because they're told not to use it. And nothing angers me than when I hear a story of a veteran getting talked out of using their VA loan for various reasons, whether it be funding fee or any of the above. There is never a situation to where it's a better idea to use a FHA conventional than a VA. I mean, they're very, very rare. Long story short, don't FHA my VA. And again, more conversations and calls like this are the key to moving that needle, and hopefully we can make it 35%, 36%, and maybe one day we'll have all the veterans in the world with owning homes in this country, and that'd be amazing. So today's topic we're going to do is over debunking myths about the VA loan. Now, what I did is I posted on a couple of different social media channels. I asked actual veterans, what are some of the top myths that you'd like for me to debunk? And I got a lot of responses. And so I used a lot of the ones, a lot of the topics that we're going to talk about today are those exact responses. So let's get into it. So the reason that we have rumors and myths to begin with, the VA loan is by far the most misunderstood loan program and veteran benefit that there is. There's several reasons for this. Number one, like I mentioned, bad education in the veteran community. A lot of times veterans get out, we scatter to the winds, and we don't talk to each other. We get together for some reunions every now and again, but a lot of times we don't really interact, and so we don't get the information to each other. Number two, a very underwhelming process of transitioning from active duty to civilian. Like I said, it's called EASing, and in some cases we have people that serve this country for 30 years, and their life is the military. And the process of EASing is the same across the board. It's like 2 weeks. It's called TAPS, and it's nobody pays attention to anything. And so we are not properly preparing the majority of veterans to be successful in the civilian world. And number three, other than the VA loan handbook, there really is no true authority associated with the VA loan, which if you ask me, it's a good thing. What do I mean by that? Now, obviously, there's regional loan centers. There is the VA. There is a structure within the VA loan to have people in charge. However, there's no the VA loan lets the lenders do their job, and that's a good thing, because the last thing you'd want is the federal government weighing in on every real estate transaction that a veteran does. But because of that, there's not a combined effort to get good information out there, right? Like the Veteran Land Board has a really good marketing team right now, but they are a centralized entity, and they are doing a great job of marketing what the VLB is and what it's not. And the fourth one on there is the VA loan is essentially a living, breathing document. And so what I mean by that is it changes throughout, the course of it being a thing. And so what could be allowed 1 year, maybe 5 years later, there's a circular that comes out or something changes. And so maybe that's why there's a myth out there about it. And number five, lazy real estate professionals that are too afraid to sound uneducated. And this is a very big thing in our community as a real estate professional. I'll say it. We don't like to say we don't know something, and we don't like to sound unconfident about something. But here's the thing: if you don't know something, you can sound confident still and say you don't know it. So this goes out to all the real estate professionals out there. If you come across something and you don't know, just don't be afraid to say it. And number six, last one, a little thing called Lance Corporal Underground. These E1s, E2, E3s, you'd be surprised the rumor mill that goes along and all the things that are said across the lower echelons, I guess we'll say, of the veteran and active duty community. So let's get into rumor/myth number one that we are going to debunk today. Number one, it can only be used once. Well, in reality, there is no limit on how many times a veteran or active duty can use their VA loan. It can be used multiple times, even with multiple loans out at the same time. Now, a lot of times, the reason why this rumor is so pervasive is because veterans think they have to wait and use this loan product on their forever home, the one they're going to be there for 30 years. That's just not the case. So a veteran's entitlement is what allows the VA loan buyer to purchase at zero down, no PMI. So what the entitlement does is it guarantees the lender at 25% of the loan, and that's how we're able to borrow money at zero down. It's really not zero down. It's a 25% down loan. Just that 25% down comes in the form of a guarantee from the VA. So entitlement is restored upon ownership change of the property, meaning that if you don't sell the property or change ownership, the entitlement is still tied up in there. And there is a thing called one-time restoration of entitlement that you're allowed to hang on to a property, refinance it, and then get your entitlement restored so you can buy again. But the point is, if you continue to buy and sell, you have unlimited entitlement. Once ownership changes of the previous property, your entitlement's restored. So it only really matters if you're buying multiple houses with multiple loans. And it's a great zero down wealth building tool throughout a person's life. Like, for instance, they get out of the military and they buy that starter home and they live in it for 5 years and they decide to upgrade, they get married, have kids, and then they sell that one and buy the next one zero down, and they live in it for 30 years, and now the kids have moved out and it's time to downsize, and they sell that one. And throughout the process, they've grown a very, very large amount of wealth by appreciating value in one direction and paying down the mortgage in the other. So again, it can be used multiple times. It's a great zero down wealth building tool for a veteran for their entire life. Rumor number two, you can only have one VA loan out at a time. These two kind of go together. And we did a very deep dive on entitlement in the last call. And there's a YouTube video of it out there. If anybody wants to, let me see in the chat here. Okay. Nope, we're good. If anybody wants to go look that up, I can probably link my YouTube channel in the chat or something like that. Anyways, as discussed in the previous slide, entitlement is what allows a VA buyer to buy at zero down, no PMI. Bonus/second tier entitlement is what allows a VA buyer to have multiple VA loans out at the same time for zero down. So the way that works is there is a thing called the county conforming loan limits that are issued every year. And this year, for most part of the country, it's $806,500, but it does vary. It goes up in states that or counties that have higher costs of living. Basically, so the VA buyer has the ability to purchase as many zero down properties as they can, as long as all the purchase price remain under that $806,500 for this year. So what that looks like is, let's say they buy a $306,500 home, and then they wanted to buy again this year. Well, then they'd have $500,000 of zero down buying power available to do so while keeping the first one. Anything over that limit, though, let's say they wanted to buy a $550,000 home. Again, what entitlement is, it's just the way of the VA making a lender whole if they were to default. Therefore, all the veteran has to do is replace that entitlement with a 25% down payment of their own. And it's only of the difference between the house price and their remaining entitlement. So let's say they wanted to buy that $550,000 home. Well, 25% of $50,000 is $12,500. So a $550,000 home for $12,500 down, still a pretty good deal. So again, great zero down real estate portfolio building strategy. A lot of people, especially on active duty, you go from duty station to duty station. The government pays you to go there. The government gives you basic allowance for housing, which is tax-free income, and you use that to pay down your mortgage. And as you go throughout your career, PCS, you can really develop a really awesome 4 or 5 property real estate portfolio and retire and and be in a good spot. So. Rumor number 3, the house must be in perfect, pristine condition. Now, the VA is not going to let you buy a junker. So don't think that you can just go and find anything and rehab it or whatever. But there are certain requirements that a house must meet in order for it to be approved, and they're generally not excessive. It'd just be like anything. Now, again, you can't buy like a shack, but these are called minimum property requirements, and that's a good phrase to learn and be familiar with. They can be found in chapter 12 of the VA handbook, and it's the longest chapter of the handbook. And there's a lot of information in there, and just know that that's where to find it. And like I said, get used to that terminology, minimum property requirements. It's always a good thing to be able to discuss. Now, while the VA loan won't allow you to buy a dump, it basically boils down to the 3 S's of minimum property requirements, which are safe, sanitary, and structurally sound. So as long as the property is safe, is there floorboards coming out, there nails out sticking out of the wall, things like that, it's a green light, it's good. Number 2, sanitary. Is there a well on the property? Has the well been tested? Is there a septic system on the property? Is there, anything, is there mold in the property? And then structurally sound is pretty self-explanatory. Is there anything issue with the foundation? Is the house going to fall over? Things like that. So as long as these things are safe, sanitary, and structurally sound, 99% of the time, the veteran will be able to buy the home. And the last little bullet point on there, there actually is a VA renovation loan that's available in case the property may not be sanitary, safe, or structurally sound, but they really want to buy it. What the VA will let you do is borrow up to $50,000 in addition to the contract price of the home, as long as it appraises high enough with the renovations. And the work must be done in 60 days. And another thing, the work must be done by a registered VA contractor, meaning they have to register with the VA and give all their employee details, because what they don't want you to do is like the good old boy network and then, shoddy jobs getting done. So they want to make sure this is done right. All right, rumor number 4. There are multiple inspections slash appraisals. Now, the only actual inspection that is actually required by the VA is a wood destroying insect inspection. Now, appraisals are different than inspections, which we'll get to down below. But basically, if you don't want to hire a home inspector, you don't have to. If you don't want to do an HVAC inspection, you don't have to. They just care about that wood destroying insect inspection. And even there's a map in certain areas where you don't need it. But again, I would never recommend somebody buying a 150, hundreds of thousands of dollar asset without doing those inspections, but just know that they're not required. I have one person who he actually is a building inspector for the city of Bryan here. And so he doesn't do inspections on his home because he's the inspector, anyways, and it's commonly misunderstood that there's a separate VA inspection that must be done. Now, we hear that all the time. This is going to pass the VA inspection, this. Now, there is a VA appraisal, but it is very similar to pretty much every other appraisal process that's out there. The only difference is that the appraiser is certified and assigned by the VA. So the way it works is the lender submits for an appraisal request to the VA, and the VA assigns an appraiser. So that way there's no conflict of interest on what this thing's valued at. And they do that because they want to protect the veteran. They want to make sure you're buying a home that's actually worth what you're paying for it. So the VA appraisal will ensure that all NPRs are being held up. In the event that there is something not within the NPRs, let's say there's a appraisal comes back subject to, meaning it met the value as long as they fix this thing that's not following the minimum property requirements. There are several things that the veteran can do in that situation. Number one is fix the issue. But number two, if it's one of those situations where it's not affecting the building's safety, structurally soundness, or being sanitary, then there's actually a minimum property requirement waiver that the veteran can sign to where that doesn't need to matter. And like where something like this would come in, we actually had a situation where the appraiser said, hey, this is net value subject to a wooden post that is attached to a patio, goes directly into the ground instead of on a concrete surface. And so he said that would lead to a possible termite infestation. And so originally they were going to have to spend thousands of dollars digging up that post, laying down a pad, putting the patio post on a concrete pad. But luckily we were able to step in and say, no, he doesn't really need to do this. This is not affecting the buildings or the home's structural soundness, safety, or sanitation aspect of it. So able to save the veteran and the seller thousands of dollars. So, and again, so yeah, that's just another rumor. There's, and we'll get to the next one about appraisals later, but yeah. So here we go. Number 5, VA appraisals take too long and come in too low. Now, again, we kind of discussed it a little bit. The VA appraisal process is similar to pretty much every other appraisal. The only thing they do different is like you can't request an appraisal of your choice. It's going to be a neutral third party. You're not going to know who it is, things like that. Now, the whole, if it's taking too long, actually the VA has a limit of 2 business days for that appraiser to make an appointment once they are assigned the file. And while there's no official standard on how long it takes to complete, it's in the handbook. The guideline says they encourage appraisers to complete the report as fast or faster than conventional appraisals. So what that means is if you have a seller who's like reluctant to accept a VA offer and they come back at you and they say, oh, I don't want to wait on a VA appraisal, I want to get a good conventional offer, then you can now say, well, in reality, Mr. Seller, the guideline states that this appraisal has to be completed fast or faster than a conventional appraisal. So just keep that up in your mind and think about that next time you hear pushback on that. And number two, they come in low. Okay, so it does happen sometimes, but just like any appraisal, they are designed to protect the buyer from buying a property that's contract price is overvalued. So in the event that the property does not meet value, VA buyers actually have three options. Number one, they can go through a process called Tidewater or reconsideration of value. Now, what this does is it allows the listing agent and the buyer's agent to submit comparable properties that they think show that the subject property meets the value of the contract price. If that doesn't work, then they go to the reconsideration of value, and that's kind of bypassing the appraiser and going straight to the regional loan center. And again, pleading your case, saying, we really want the home. We need the concessions in order to be able to afford the home, little things like that. It's your opportunity to plead your case to the VA directly. Number two, they can come up the difference in contract price and cash. Just because it doesn't appraise high enough and the veteran still wants it. A lot of veterans do have cash, and they are able to do that if they would like. Number three, you can always go back and renegotiate the contract price with the seller. I would definitely go through Tidewater and reconsideration of value first before doing any of number two or number three, but those would be your three options. But again, the Tidewater and the reconsideration of value process is so effective that other loan programs are trying to replicate it, but they just can't because they don't have the infrastructure that the VA loan has. And so whenever somebody says, oh, the appraisal is going to come in low, you can now say, well, if it does, I've got two really awesome remedies through the appraisal and the regional loan center. And if it comes to it, then maybe I can come up with some cash and then we can renegotiate. Are we doing on time? Okay. Number six, you can't buy multifamily housing. And this one is like, I hate it because in the end, especially a young veteran getting out, 22, 23 years old, they just lived in barracks for 4 years. They don't mind living in a fourplex. They don't mind living, they don't need the perfect home. So yeah, you could absolutely buy a duplex, triplex, or a fourplex, live in one of the units and rent the other three out and actually kind of have some really nice, substantial cash flow rental income. Again, you must occupy one of the units. You can run out the other ones as much as you want, for as much as you want. And again, this is just a great wealth building strategy for single VA buyers or even VA buyers with families that don't mind neighbors being close. Like for instance, myself and my fiance, we bought two duplexes using my VA loan. And now wife, I guess I should specify. But anyways, we bought two duplexes using it. And, my wife my family didn't care about having neighbors directly next door to us. And so we were able to do that. Number seven, VA loans don't close or take longer to close than FHA or conventional mortgages. I forget what HDMA stands for, but it's basically they give stats for mortgages and whatnot across the country, and this is their stats. Okay, the conventional loan closing rate in 2024 was 82.1%. That means that 82.1% of the time, conventional loans closed, meaning 17.9% they did not close. FHA, the closing rate is 82.71, a little better than conventional, but still not nearly as high as that VA loan closing rate of 87.07. So what that means is if a person were to give you pushback on a VA loan offer and they say, well, I don't want, it's probably not going to close, but this conventional offer will, we now have stats and data to say, actually, if you want this home to close and you want to sell, you want to take that VA offer because they are 5.6% more likely to close than that conventional offer. And that's just data. And average conventional closing time, 42 days. Average FHA loan closing time, 43 days. Average VA loan closing time, 40 days. And this is just national data, guys. And so we can use these stats to combat the hesitant seller when they receive a conventional offer and a VA offer, or on the buyer side, if somebody is trying to talk you out of using your VA loan because they're going to say, oh, it takes longer to close, so we're going to go conventional, just stop the conversation, go find a trusted real estate professional, and continue on with your housing search. All right, the last one we're going to do today, we're kind of losing a little bit of time here, is that, what's going on? The VA buyers have less skin in the game. What that means is because oftentimes, because they're putting $0 down, they are looked at as not having as much skin in the game as somebody who's putting down 20% down. Now, this is wrong for two reasons. We talked about entitlement before and what it is. Entitlement guarantees the mortgage at 25% so that if the buyer were to ever default, the lender is made whole by that 25%. What this means is that a VA buyer is actually the same as a 25% down conventional buyer. So whenever anybody says that a VA buyer, VA loan is not as strong as conventional, you can say no. They're actually as strong as a 25% down conventional loan as far as the mortgage company is concerned and the lender is concerned. And number two, the VA loan is the only earned mortgage product out there. And to say that somebody that earned a benefit doesn't have as much skin in the game than somebody who happens to have cash is just, I don't really like that terminology at all. And I think that's just a bad mindset to have. Um, so yeah, again, the cool thing about, everybody gets an FHA loan, everybody can do a conventional loan, but only veterans and active duty are able to use this awesome loan product. So, yeah, last slide. Any questions out there? You can unmute yourself if you'd like, or I can go back to any slides. Or I'm recording this, so we'll put it up on YouTube and I'll share the link and then we'll let people go back and watch it from there. Well, awesome guys. I appreciate everyone coming on the call. I appreciate all the people that are out there providing good information regarding this VA loan program. And please feel free to reach out to me anytime, Facebook, phone number, any of the above. Just do a quick Google search and I would be happy to answer any questions or rumors that you may hear about the VA loan going forward. And so, yeah. All right, guys. That's it for this call. Thanks.